My dad didn't wait until dinner to humiliate me. He did it before the turkey even hit the table. One hand on his beer, the other holding his phone, filming me as I lined up plates and silverware like I'd done every Thanksgiving. 14 seconds later, the video was on Facebook. Caption read, "Look at this failure." She was always a servant. My siblings laughed. My mom looked away. I just stood there, napkin in my hand, feeling my face burn, while the house filled with laughter that wasn't mine. I didn't say a word. I picked up my purse, walked out the front door, and didn't look back. By the next morning, their phones were buzzing for a different reason, because the servant they mocked had finally stopped serving. Before I tell you the rest, tell me where are you watching from so I know I'm not the only one who's had to walk away from family to find peace. Thanksgiving had always looked the same in our house. The same chip dishes, the same football noise leaking from the living room, the same rule that nobody said out loud, "I worked," they watched. Every year, I told myself it was fine, that keeping the peace was better than starting a fight. But this time, something cracked the moment my dad hit post. He didn't even glance at me after uploading that video. He just laughed and said, "Relax, Emma. It's a joke." Sloane snorted without looking up from her phone. Jason muttered something about me needing a sense of humor, and my mom Maria just stared at the oven, pretending the turkey needed her full attention. That's what she always did. Pretend. I'd been the family's fixer since I could remember. The one who worked 2 jobs, paid off small debts, lent money, stayed quiet. When bills piled up, I stepped in. When my sister overdrafted her card, I covered it. When my dad wanted a new grill, I ordered it on mine. Somehow responsibility turned into servitude. That night, sitting alone at Aunt Ruth's kitchen counter, I finally replayed the video. 14 seconds. No music, no context, just me folding napkins. The caption glowing beneath it, "Look at this failure." She was always a servant. The comments below were worse. Laugh emojis, heart reacts from people I didn't even know. My brother had commented, "At least she's good at something," Sloane replied with laughing faces. Even a cousin joined in classic Emma never stops working. I'd spent my life being useful, but usefulness doesn't equal respect. Ruth didn't say much when she found me watching it. She just handed me a blanket and said, "You don't owe them another second." For the first time in years, I believed someone meant it. I didn't sleep. I just sat by the window watching the streetlight flicker over the driveway. My phone buzzed over and over again. Texts from Jason, my mom, even my dad, each one shorter and colder than the last. None of them said sorry. Not one asked if I was okay. By morning, something inside me had shifted. It wasn't rage exactly, it was the absence of it. Like the moment after a storm when everything's quiet, but you know the world isn't the same. I closed my laptop, slid my phone across the counter, and whispered to myself, "They can laugh all they want. I'm done playing the servant." The next morning, the air felt sharp enough to cut through thought. I walked outside before the sun came up, still in yesterday's jeans, the sky bruised with gray. Ruth's porch smelled like coffee and rain. She didn't ask what happened, she already knew enough. That's what made it easier to breathe. No questions, no pretending, just quiet. By 8, my phone buzzed again. Sloane, her name lighting up the screen like static. The message was short. "Why can't I withdraw $2,000 from your account? No hi, no apology, no mention of what had happened the night before. Just entitlement, raw and casual, like she was asking me to pass the salt." I stared at the screen so long the words blurred. Then I laughed, a dry, humorless sound that startled even me. I closed the joint account hours earlier, transferring every dollar I'd saved into a private one. After the Facebook post, after the silence, after the years of being the one who paid and cleaned and forgave, it finally clicked. They didn't love me for who I was. They loved me for what I did for them. Sloane sent another text. "Are you serious? I need that money today." Then another. "You're unbelievable. Bitter much." My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't type back. Instead, I scrolled through our old messages, years of her borrowing me, agreeing. Concert tickets, emergency car repairs, birthday dinners she promised to split but never did. It was all there, a digital record of every time I'd said yes when I should have said no. Ruth walked in, tying her robe tighter. "You up early," she said softly. I think I just woke up from a really long dream, I replied. She didn't press for details, only nodded like she understood exactly what I meant. At noon, my dad's message arrived. You've always been dramatic. Grow up. That one didn't hurt. It confirmed everything I already knew. The same man who filmed me like a joke couldn't even fake remorse. It was almost freeing. I opened my laptop, started sorting through my finances, organizing bills and statements. The numbers grounded me. They were the only thing that made sense. What was earned, what was owed, what was mine. My savings stood at $21,364. Every cent represented a piece of myself they'd never valued. I didn't feel angry anymore. Anger was loud, messy. This was colder, quieter, like the calm right before a controlled burn. That night, I wrote down everything. Dates, screenshots, notes, not because I planned revenge yet, but because I needed proof that it all happened, that I hadn't imagined the pattern. Before bed, I placed my phone face down and whispered into the dark, I'm not your servant anymore. It wasn't a declaration. It was a fact. By Sunday morning, the silence from that house started to feel heavier than any insult. No calls, no texts, not even a fake apology, just quiet, the kind that hums after a storm. I wasn't waiting for an olive branch anymore. I was waiting for clarity. And when it came, it arrived in another message from Sloan. This time, she didn't bother with a greeting. I need the money now. Don't be spiteful. My thumb hovered over the screen before I finally typed, the account's closed. Don't ask again. No explanation, no softness, just the truth. A few seconds later, the typing bubbles appeared, then a flurry of messages, words like selfish, manipulative, bitter. Then finally, the one that made me smile. You've changed. She was right. I had. I spent the rest of that day quietly erasing every door they'd ever used to reach me. Freezing joint cards, changing passwords, redirecting mail. Each click, each confirmation email felt like untying another knot that had been choking me for years. Ruth noticed the papers spread across the dining table. You're cleaning house, she said. More like evicting ghosts, I answered. She gave a half smile. Good. About time. That night I started digging deeper, not out of spite, but out of curiosity. I pulled up my credit report, something I hadn't checked in months. My stomach tightened as the screen loaded. 2 credit cards, both under my name. One open with a $400 balance, another closed with missed payments. I'd never opened either. The room felt smaller. For a long minute, I just stared at the numbers, my pulse climbing. Then I printed everything, slid the pages into a folder, and wrote across the front proof. I walked into Ruth and Daniel's living room, the glow of the TV flickering on their faces. Use my name, I said flatly. Ruth muted the show. Who did my dad? At least twice. Maybe more. Daniel leaned forward, voice calm but firm. Then you document it. All of it. We'll figure out what to do next. There was no yelling, no chaos, just a clear plan. It was strange how calm justice could feel when it finally belonged to you. Later that night, I opened my messages one last time. Another text from Sloan blinked on screen. Why are you doing this? We're family. I typed back 3 words, don't ask again. Then I added another line, 5 words that weren't planned but felt perfect. Don't ask a servant. I hit send. The words hung in the air like a mirror turned on its maker. For once, silence wasn't emptiness. It was power. I didn't wait for anyone to apologize. The morning after I told Sloan not to ask again, I laid everything across Ruth's dining table, papers, screenshots, statements, proof of a lifetime spent paying for people who called me a servant. Each page told the same story they took I gave, and when I stopped, I became the villain. Daniel sat across from me, reading quietly. When he reached the 2 credit cards on my report, one open, one closed, with missed payments, he didn't look surprised. He just nodded once, the way someone does when the truth finally matches what they've suspected for years. Ruth called a lawyer her friend recommended. The office was small beige walls and stale coffee smell, but the lawyer's voice was calm, factual. Did you authorize these accounts? No. Do you have proof? Yes. She wrote a list that sounded more like a to-do for justice: file fraud reports, freeze credit, notify the bank, contact relatives. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like repair. That afternoon, I did it all. Every form, every phone call, every official word that took my story out of family gossip and into legal record. Each confirmation email was another knot untied. When I returned home, a new group chat had appeared on my phone, Jason Sloan and me. The first photo stopped my breath. My old room drawers ripped open, mirror shattered. Jason's caption, "Cleaning day," then Sloan. "Should have taken your stuff." I stared at the screen until I stopped feeling anything. Ruth leaned over my shoulder, took her own photo of it. "Don't delete a thing," she said. Minutes later, my cousin Noah texted. He was near my parents' house and could check if anything was salvageable. 15 minutes after that, a photo, my laptop passport, and a stack of letters on his passenger seat. "Saved what I could," he wrote. I told him not to go back. That night, I called a few relatives my father had borrowed money from for me. Their voices were embarrassed and quiet. Each had sent him hundreds or thousands, believing I was sick or in debt. I wrote every name, every amount. By the time I finished, my notebook looked like an autopsy of trust. When I froze my credit that night, I didn't feel anger, just clarity. The math of abuse finally balanced what they'd stolen, what they'd lose. Around midnight, I filled a large envelope with every piece of evidence, screenshots, bills, photos, Sloane's text, the Facebook caption, and my note at the top, "Don't ask a servant." Ruth didn't ask questions when I grabbed her car keys. The street outside was quiet. November air crisp. I parked in front of my parents' house, slipped the envelope into the mailbox, and left without knocking. It didn't feel like vengeance. It felt like closing a book. The next morning, an email appeared from an unfamiliar name, my father's boss. He'd seen the Facebook video before it was deleted. He wrote, "Just wanted to check if you're okay. No judgment, no lecture. Just that." I didn't reply. The damage was already done, and not to me this time. 2 days later, an envelope arrived at Ruth's. My name on it. No return address. Inside, 2 old photos, me as a baby in Maria's arms, and another of me camping Victor's arm around me. Beneath them, a handwritten letter. "You were always difficult. You thought you were better than us. I took a small loan in your name. I planned to pay it off. It wasn't much." I read that line until the words lost meaning, then added the letter to my folder of evidence. People always confess when they think confession will save them. It won't. The lawyer confirmed what we already knew. The letter was an admission. She spoke calmly, outlining the process reports, filed investigations, opened banks contacted. She said it could take weeks, maybe months, but it would stick. Real justice always moves slow. By Thursday, Jason texted, "You made this a big deal. We were joking. Grow thicker skin." 10 minutes later, "Can we talk like normal people?" I didn't reply. Normal was their word for comfortable cruelty. That evening, messages from Sloan flooded my phone, voicemails, texts, one furious line after another. She'd tried to open a new credit card and got flagged for fraud. "What did you do? You ruined my life." I typed one sentence back, "I secured mine." For the first time, I felt the weight shift. They were finally living with consequences they couldn't transfer to me. A few days later, Maria called. I let it go to voicemail, but then a text followed. "There's something of yours I kept safe." Noah went instead. He found a small box under my old bed, a tangle of photos receipts, and at the bottom a savings booklet. It showed a balance once over $3,000, withdrawn completely the week after my 21st birthday. My father's signature at the bottom. I added it to the file. Every piece of paper was a step back toward myself. That weekend, Jason asked to meet at a diner. I said yes, mostly out of curiosity. He looked smaller when he walked in, shoulders slumped, hoodie faded. "Dad's unraveling," he said before sitting down. He told me Maria had left and filed for divorce. Victor had been written up at work for misconduct and missed shifts. He said, "You're going to press charges, right?" I didn't answer. He kept talking about how he believed Dad because it was easier how he joined the laughter, because silence made him feel weak. When he stopped, I said, "Don't ever speak for me again." He nodded, no argument. On the drive home, I passed the river. For the first time, it looked still instead of heavy. My phone buzzed again, another message from an unknown number one of Victor's coworkers, this time heard what happened. "People talk. Keep your head up." The irony wasn't lost on me. My father wanted the world to laugh at me. Instead, the world was watching him unravel. The next morning, the lawyer called. The bank had confirmed activity tied to Victor's name on the accounts opened under mine. She said words like federal offense and identity theft phrases that used to sound like headlines, but now belonged to my story. I thanked her, hung up, and stood for a moment letting the silence of Ruth's kitchen settle around me. Ruth came in with 2 mugs, coffee. I shook my head, smiling. She set one down anyway. "You don't have to serve anyone anymore," she said. I left it there to cool, untouched, because for the first time I had a choice. Spring came slowly that year, quiet and steady, like my life rebuilding itself without asking for permission. The investigation took weeks, but every new email from the lawyer felt like a brick set in place. The fraud reports were accepted, the accounts were frozen, the loans traced back to Victor. For once, the facts didn't bend to his story. Maria filed for divorce. She moved into a small apartment near her sister's house and sent word through Ruth that she wasn't asking for forgiveness, just a chance to start over. I didn't respond. Some things are better left unfinished. Sloane vanished after her last outburst. The credit flag had followed her. She couldn't open new accounts. Jason stopped trying to justify anything. The last time I saw him, he looked at me with something between guilt and respect. "You were right," he said quietly, and left it there. And Victor, he lost his job. The company did a background review after the fraud report surfaced. Turns out the same pride that made him humiliate me on Facebook cost him the only thing he valued more than control: reputation. By April, my savings had climbed from $21,000 to almost $30,000. I took on a steady office job, nothing fancy but mine. The hours were calm. I slept. I ate. I learned what peace actually sounded like. It wasn't silence. It was safety. Some nights I sat on Ruth's porch, the same spot where I'd first realized my world was falling apart. But now the air didn't sting. It just felt still. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't forgiving either. I was free. By the end of spring, I toured a small apartment near the river. The windows faced east, catching the first light, and the air smelled like something new. Ruth and Daniel offered to help me move, but I told them I'd do it myself. It wasn't pride, it was closure. I unpacked my things slowly, one box at a time, no noise, no panic, just stillness. My life was finally mine. People still ask what happened to my family. I tell them nothing happened. They just met the version of me that stopped apologizing. Victor lost his control. Sloane lost her access. Jason lost his excuses. But I didn't lose anything worth keeping. They once said I'd always be a servant. They were right about one thing: I did serve. I served lessons they'll never forget. If you've ever had to walk away from family to protect your peace, you're not alone. Share your story below and don't forget to subscribe for the next one.